let's get into it now then, studs and duds for this one, Sean. We'll go one by one. So give me, you rank them 1 through 3. 1 through 3, who you have on your studs. Give me one of your studs from today's game for the Patriots.
My top stud, and I think some of this is going to be overlap from the 20 minutes we just talked already. But I'm going to go Hunter Henry. I mean, it just such a trust. Like he's very trusted. He's very trustworthy. But I think the way he looked today is like kind of cements his role both in Alex Van Pelt's offense, but also like with Jacoby Brissett. We talked about earlier. 8 catches. He had 12 targets, career high 109 yards. And it was just early on, it was just, it was like every time the Patriots needed a first down, Jacoby Brissett was going to Hunter Henry. I'm pretty sure it was each of his 5 catches that he started the game with. I think each of them were a first down at that point. And a lot of the catches that he had, I think it was 7 of them for pretty close to 100 yards in the first half. At one point, he was doubling, the rest of the Patriots. I think he had like 97 yards when the Patriots' total offense was like 160 or something like that in the first half. So, I mean, just really put the offense on his back, especially early.
I put Hunter Henry. You have to point him out as a stud today, too. I said it earlier. 8 catches, 109 yards in the game, 7 for 98 in the first half. And all those third downs I ran through with Jacoby. That first one set up that Jalen Polk touchdown on their first drive of the game. The second third down conversion he got, that led to later in the drive, Joey Sly field goal. So again, like his ability to move the chains and be reliable for Jacoby Brissett. In a system, I mean, you go back to the Cleveland Browns of last year. We saw David Njoku with his best career year under Alex Van Pelt. And that system that they ran in Cleveland, you see it flourishing early on right now for Hunter Henry and the Patriots. So that's one of my studs too. Who else do you have for a stud from today's game?
I'm going to go with Jacoby Brissett. I just think the way that he was able to avoid sacks, and I know he ended up taking 3, and the one in the fourth quarter was a little bit of I don't want to call it a drive killer, because I still they go from 3rd and 6 to 4th and 15 or whatever it is. They make a veteran kicker kick a field goal that's a little bit longer. That gets blocked. So we know the outcome of it, but I don't want to say that was like this, catastrophic, like Jacoby Brissett lost them the game by taking the sack. And for him to take 3 in the whole game, I feel like that could have been 6 or 7 easily. I mean, there was a few times where he was, making plays with his legs and kind of getting outside of the pocket and pretty much like backyard football sort of plays. And they worked. And, I think without him, certainly if you look back at last year, if Mac Jones was playing this game or something like that, and not to kill someone that's not here, but it probably would have been closer to 6 or 8 sacks. I mean, that's just the way last year played out. Mm-hmm. And I think Jacoby Brissett really played a good game, and especially with that, just being calm and being the veteran. I think, now we've seen 2 weeks that I'm certainly not trying to push Drake May's debut back, I guess, but I do think we've seen some signs all right, this is why the Patriots went with Jacoby Brissett, and right now he is the best option for them.
Even with and I made the point on chat as well, I'm still pushing back that Drake May debut, not to sidetrack, but when this offensive line is looking better. Now, Jacoby had time in the pocket today at certain points, but you need the receivers to win on the outside at a certain point, and you need those guys to get open, and that has to help a rookie quarterback. When they're making their reads, if he can tuck and run. He obviously has much higher athletic ceiling than Jacoby Brissett, but if that becomes the habit for Drake May, where first or second read is there to tuck and run, when you have to get to your third, and if you have the time, your fourth, or just make sharper decisions, he gets a habit of tucking and running and bails him out. You have to develop him as a passer. But to your point of Jacoby Brissett, how well he did play today, I mean, it is through 2 games. There were points, again, that sack that pushed him, well, they stayed in field goal range, but led to it being a 48-yard field goal instead of a 37-yard field goal or 39-yard field goal, which Sly can hit. That changes the trajectory of the kick, but also that leads to that mishap on special teams as well. You can say what you want on that. It affects the game, and he has to be better of where he had time. Yeah. He had time in that third sack he took. He has to have a better clock in his head of getting the ball out. So I didn't put him as a stud, but I didn't put him as a dud either. Another one of my studs, I got to go Layden Robinson. He led up, I believe, 5 pressures week 1 at the right guard spot, but was phenomenal run blocking. He was good in pass pro today. He was good in run blocking. The Patriots, at one point, rushed 8 of their 19 times between David Andrews and Layden Robinson, so basically behind them. They're averaging 4.4 yards per rush behind Layden Robinson, that rookie, who came in as a refined run blocker. His pass pro needs help. They're doing it week by week, improving him. Scott Peters has done a great job with him. And a rookie that was thrusted into that spot because of the shuffles of this offensive line as well. So I put Layden Robinson as one of my studs. Who's your final stud for the Patriots from their loss to the Seahawks?
I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson. And, I just think like he, at a time where like the offense was kind of struggling, early in the second half, and I guess throughout, but he kind of put the offense on the back with a few big runs. I'm just looking at the stats right now, 11 attempts for 96 yards. Obviously, a big part of that is that 45-yard run that ultimately didn't go for any points. But I just think like he kind of showed signs of like, not only Ramondre Stevens' backup, but like, he could be a good piece of this offense when, if called upon. And so I just think it was kind of a really, we talk about development of everyone, and I know he's a veteran guy, not a younger guy, but I just think it was kind of encouraging, I guess, to kind of see him play as well as he did.
It should be encouraging if the Patriots can walk out of the season with, we have our backfield settled down, like bring back an Antonio Gibson, JaMychal Hasty, a younger player, bring him back. But like basically someone that can spell Ramondre Stevenson, still have versatility. And you bring it up, that 45-yard run, that should have been dropped 6 yards in the backfield. Like Boye Mafi just was in his face to make him miss, make all the others miss, and break that for 45 yards. Kind of just ran out of gas at the end of that run, but he did everything he could. And then it was Jacoby Brissett on 3rd and long, letting that drive down, pushing them further back. And before the special teams had a big mishap. My final stud, I got to go Kyle Duggar. 8 tackles, 1 sack, 1 QB hit. When Juwan Bentley was knocked out of the game, he took over for his role. Wearing the green dot on his helmet, so it looks like he was calling the defense as well. This is a guy where we saw them rush 3 and 4 plenty in their win against the Bengals and not need to blitz, but that wouldn't last every week. And I think DeMarcus Covington got to the point he's like, I'm not going to show more than I need to. I'm fine rushing this many. It's working on Burrow. Let's save the blitzes for later in the season. When his number was called, wreaking havoc. Early on, them trying to call a bubble screen for JSN. Him just eating that up and blowing that play up. He's so versatile. He's so smart. He's so strong. He can be so multiple for this defense. It was good to see him step up like he did. All right, let's get into duds. Who for you was a dud from today's game?
I'm just going to group in the Patriots receivers as one. Yeah. We already talked about it. 3 receptions among the group. Jalen Polk had 2 of them. KJ Osborn had another one. Obviously first career touchdown for Jalen Polk, so good for him. But, just to have that little of have that little production, I guess, from all of your receivers. And, just to kind of quickly look at it, how many yards is that? 12 plus 13 yards total from your receiving group on 3 catches. So I just, that's a tough way to win.
19. Got to do quick math for you, Sean. 12 plus 7, that's 19. Polk had 17. 7, yeah. And KJ Osborn had 7. There we go. But that's not any better. Like, it's 19, 13. The fact that only 2 receivers caught a pass. Yeah. And the fact that only 2 receivers caught a pass. Now, if it was like what Metcalf and JSN teamed up for, fine. Sure, you can live with that. But like, you need to get more. You need to get more guys involved. This offense cannot become one-dimensional. It's going to be run heavy, but when you drop back to pass, it can't become one-dimensional where if they take out a Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper, you're SOL the second you drop back to pass. My first dud, I'm going to go with the secondary. I would exclude Christian Gonzalez, but also you had him and Kyle Duggar had that bad communication. I know Kyle Duggar was my stud, but I'm just going to go with JSN to be going off 12 for 117, DK Metcalf 10 for 109. And especially a guy like Jason, who's a lot of underneath and lines up more to be covered by a nickel, you could probably pinpoint that on Marcus Jones. I'll see more when I see matchups and get all 22 on this. But the secondary just wasn't good today. And a lot of help was from Geno Smith extending plays, but also these guys getting open and just for JSN finding his soft spots in the zone and just carving up the secondary altogether. They have a great player in Christian Gonzalez. They have good pieces in a Duggar and in a Jabril Peppers, but there has to be more from this secondary of guys being put in spots. We saw even end of the year, they're getting the job done with Alex Austin playing significant snaps. They need to get some more out of the secondary. Who's another dud you have?
I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with Alex Van Pelt. And I guess maybe this could be like the coaches in general, but I think for me it really comes down to, and I know I've said this multiple times already today, but just the Pop Douglas thing and some of like the red zone personnel decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just kind of questionable, I guess at best, perplexing maybe at worst. And when Gerard was asked about it, he put it on the coaches. So I'm going to put it on the coaches too. And I just think, specifically in regards to Pop, like he needs to be involved. The Patriots need Pop in their offense. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I hit on it earlier, but the 2-minute drill before the half, they get the ball in their own 10, minute 37 to play. If you're not going to at least get in a field goal range, you at least want to run out the clock and not give the Seahawks a chance. JaMychal Hasty run nowhere, 2 straight incompletions, a punt. Seattle goes 26 yards for a field goal before the half and 17-13 lead in the locker room. You need to be better than that. Then back-to-back 3-and-outs. And even go into, again, their 2-minute drill. One time out left, 55 seconds in the game, get their ball in their own 30, and they go nowhere. Just, you have to give your offense a shot on top of how bad the receiving play was as well. That's on the offensive coordinator. That's on the play caller. Only 3 catches for 19 yards. I can't say that enough from your entire receiving group. That is awful in today's NFL. Who's your final dud that you have?
I'm going to go with Marco Wilson.
Same.
And all right, I'm glad we're in agreement here. I mean, to give up that DPI call, I'm curious to see like how many snaps I'm excited to see when the snaps come out tomorrow, and see how many snaps Marco Wilson played, because to give up that DPI, in the end zone, and that led to the touchdown, like the Charbonnet touchdown that you talked about earlier, to give that up on one of the few snaps I think he saw the field after a week that he gave up another big DPI. I just have a feeling like that. Those are 2 mistakes that I think could cost you your job, for lack of a better. I'm not saying he's going to get cut or anything like that, but I wouldn't be totally surprised all of a sudden if we start seeing Alex Austin as that, 4th cornerback.
Yeah, and even right before earlier in the drive, before he let up that DPI, he let up a long completion to Jackson Smith-Njigba. And then you go back a week ago to the Bengals, again, had a defensive pass interference where the Bengals were on their own 10. That boosted them 20 yards, and that sparked a touchdown drive for them to actually get in that game and make it a competition. 2 straight weeks, 2 DPIs. It's no good for Marco Wilson. You compare it to a Jonathan Jones, again, that DPI was absolute BS on what they called for him.